So, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to our show. So, you want to work in occupational health? Today, in our Day in the Life series, I am very excited to welcome Audrey Lawrence, the Director of Safety, Health, and Wellness at San Francisco International Airport. Audrey, I'm so excited, as I'm sure our listeners are as well, to learn more about your role and how it came to be. We are all about increasing awareness of cool jobs in the industry, and yours certainly makes the top of the list. Welcome, Audrey, to this episode on So You Want to Be a Health and Safety Pro. Thank you so much for joining us. And how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's really a pleasure to talk to you and your listeners.
Yes, awesome. Well, we will get right into it. So, to start, could you tell me a little bit about how you came into your role as Director of Safety, Health, and Wellness at SFO?
Sure. Well, to be honest, I started at the bottom, as I'm sure most people should start, because that's how you learn everything. But I literally graduated from the School of Public Health and went to a job fair at the Student Center within that week. And I thought for sure I was going to work for Cal OSHA. That's where I did my internship during the summer. But someone talked to me from the city and county of San Francisco, and I filled out an application, and I haven't looked back since. I've really enjoyed my time here working for the city and county of San Francisco, and the airport is part of that organization. So that's how I ended up here.
Well, and that's amazing. And I know that you did your MPH at Cal, so it's great to chat with an alumni of the program. So, other than that, the career fair that helped you find your way into working with the city and county of San Francisco, in what other ways would you say that your MPH helped kind of inspire you to take this role, or was it truly just spur of the moment and this was not something on your career radar at all beforehand?
A little bit of both. I actually started public health with environmental science emphasis. That's what I was going to study. But I had all my classes were with all these industrial hygiene students. And at the time, the NIOSH, National Institute of Occupational Safety and Health, had a training grant to attract people to the profession. And so they all went off to get their stipend. And I was like, I think I should be part of that group. I'm taking all the same classes, and I really like hanging out with these folks and studying with them. So I switched majors, actually. And that was my first foray into occupational health and safety. I really envisioned myself working for the CDC and doing international work, which I'm sure would have been fine as well. But by happenstance, I ended up in industrial hygiene. And that was the start of my safety and health education.
Awesome. Well, that's super exciting. And I mean, that's what this show is all about. When we think public health, I think a lot of people think CDC, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic and just how much they're in the news, but there are still so many other exciting jobs. So like the one that you found. So I can imagine that comprehensive health and wellness at SFO covers a lot of ground. And so could you tell me a little bit about your experiencing in managing such diverse needs across different roles at the airport?
Sure. It is challenging. The work, the people, the airport, it's true. I don't know if you've heard this before, but the airport's like a little city. It's got office staff, it's got maintenance folks, all the trades you can think of. We have 400 custodians. We have a certified museum and museum staff here in artwork. We have a treatment plant. So we have it's a comprehensive health and safety program. We do ergo, we do fall protection, confined spaces. Every health and safety hazmat, asbestos, silica. We monitor for all those industrial exposures, along with, of course, being at the airport and having noise exposures. So we have a very comprehensive hearing conservation program, respiratory protection program. All I can say is it's always exciting. No day is the same. Everything changes. We've got construction going on here constantly. So we get to help through the design process. We get to help with the maintenance part of it. We get to see a lot of projects through full circle, which I personally enjoy.
Yeah, I think I would enjoy that too, especially being able to see that full circle, but for so many different things. I can imagine how that keeps you on your toes and keeps you busy. I'm curious if you could tell us a little bit more about the comprehensive noise safety. When I first learned I was going to be able to interview you, when I think health and safety at the airport, I think noise and back problems from loading all of the luggage. So I mean, there's so many more than that. So I'm wondering if you could tell me about the programs you have in place and which other key occupational health programs you'd like to share with us?
So noise is just one of many. And to be honest, we actually don't do the luggage. That belongs to the airlines, or they sometimes they parcel that out to other companies to come out and do that type of work. So, and I do know that within those fields, it's very arduous. They oftentimes the employees don't get the requisite training that they need or support. So I'm glad that I don't have to do with that, but we do have some influence with those folks, and we do help them whenever we can, especially when it comes to designing things at the airport to make that a lot easier for folks and take the burden off of the workers to do all of those heavy projects. We have so many different programs. As I mentioned before, some of my pet projects are just working with the museum staff, which I don't know if you know much about museums, but they do welding, they do painting, they do brazing, they do every occupation that you would see in a multi-use shop, just within that small group. So their exposures are very interesting. They often get exhibits from other countries. Some of them have been fumigated with lots of pesticides. You have to figure out what they are, what their exposures are, some of the PPE and training that they need to handle those exhibits. So that's just one interesting aspect of the work. And then we've got the more traditional ones. We've got fleet services that work on hundreds of different types of not just vehicles, but everything from lawnmowers to the fire departments, their big rig trucks and the fireboats for doing planning exercises. We work closely with all the departments here at the airport. And what most folks don't realize is that safety is actually replicated in many different departments here at the airport. I'm just over the occupational health and safety, but we have passenger safety, we have public safety, we have a police department, a fire department, we have airfield safety, we have safety and security. So we all work together very closely. We're all in sort of the same umbrella of what we do here at the airport. So I talk to my coworkers all the time, and mostly it's collaboration, just to make sure everything's covered and that we all understand and respect what everyone's different roles are here at the airport.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, you mentioned that the airport feels like a small city, and after that description, I think it would be a bigger city than where I'm from. So it's quite impressive that the collaboration that goes on across so many different fields, as you mentioned. So within that, though, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your day-to-day tasks as the director.
So day to day, like any manager, probably get hundreds of emails every day. So I start my day just sort of organizing that with a big cup of coffee and prioritize the work of my staff. Really, my job as a manager is to make everybody else excel in what they're doing. So that's my focus is, okay, everyone's doing these jobs. How do I help them excel so that it reflects really well on our department? Yeah, that's a big part of my day. And whatever time I have left over, I have my own personal pet projects that I'm working on. The airport recently developed a racial equity program or plan. So I'm part of that group and trying to promote racial equity and just having people even understand what that means. We also have employee resource groups here at the airport. And I'm one of the leadership folks for the BIPOC group. That's the Black and Indigenous People of Color group. And then my other pet project is the NIOSH Total Worker Health. Been working hard on trying to convince management staff here how important it is to have all those components working together to provide a comprehensive health and safety program that goes well beyond the definition of what we think of as sort of conventional health and safety.
Yeah, I love that. It sounds like every day is very busy and full of exciting new things. But one thing that you mentioned, I'm wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the racial equity program that you're working on at SFO. In the field of occupational health and safety professionals, we're working to create a healthier, more inclusive and equitable workforce. And I'm wondering if you could share some strategies that you've employed or have seen successful at the airport and any other recommendations you can have.
Yeah, there are definitely some small initiatives, and then there's some quite large, very expansive initiatives within our racial equity plan. The plan itself is over 100 pages long, so it does delve into many aspects of providing racial equity throughout the entire airport campus. My part in it is just, my little small part that I can do. And that is one of the things I'm looking at is just making sure that PPE is fairly distributed throughout the airport. So oftentimes people who work the night schedule, so the swing and the night shift folks, don't have the access to the same tools and equipment and education that people on the day shift have. So just trying to flip the switch on that one and provide, satellite computer centers and training and lockers where people can just put in a code like an Amazon locker and get the PPE that they need. So, even something that small can provide a lot of equity and a lot of, goodwill and trust is really what you're building with all of this. And then in terms of bringing more people into the fold, I think the answer to that is all around us. You can just take motivated people performing difficult and dangerous jobs and train them to be safety professionals. And I know that sounds a little bit simplistic, but they're the ones who understand what all those hazards are. They've been in the trenches, they've done the jobs, and there are, certainly more than a few folks who are motivated to leave those jobs because they know that they'll come out of them broken. You can't do physical labor for 40 years and not come out with a number of type of just injuries that will affect you for the rest of your life. So at any rate, I'm really working hard with our HR folks to see if we can lower some of the educational requirements for the minimum quality. And I know I'm shooting myself in the foot for the master's in public health, but it's not always necessary to have a master's degree. I think that they should place as much emphasis on the job training as well as conventional education. So certainly looking at that, trying to reduce the level of formal education that's required and maximize emphasis on the job training.
That's amazing. That's really incredible work that you're doing. And though I am in the Masters of Public Health program, I recognize that historically and currently today, it's a largely inaccessible program to many marginalized groups, as is higher education as a whole. And so I think to be able to reduce those barriers so individuals can get a very rewarding and important job that they're well trained on is so important and really a tangible way to help increase equity in the campus that you work on. So that's just amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm wondering now if you could tell me one thing that surprised you since starting your job, and it can be in a good or bad way. What is one thing that you really didn't expect when you joined SFO as the Director of Health and Safety?
So again, I joined as just a lowly industrial hygiene intern, intro. So I worked my way up to this position. So the surprises have been less and less. But the thing that always amazes me, honestly, is just how interesting this job is. And there are times when it's very stressful. I won't minimize that. But mostly, you just feel like the good guy. You're helping others return home safely every day. And they're appreciative. And you just go home with a lot of good feelings that, hey, today I think I convinced someone to, look at their health, not wear their respirator correctly, I got them the well-fitted earplugs. I did some training. You make an impact every day.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. And I think that will inspire a lot of our listeners and our viewers to can maybe consider it, because I think, public health is definitely, there's so many different options, but one that you can feel good and really have an impact in is one that a lot of us are searching for, both in public health and people that are coming from other backgrounds. So I'm wondering now if you could share 3 pieces of advice that you would give to someone who's maybe considering this role or just for a industrial hygiene role or a director role, but 3 pieces of advice that you think are useful to help thrive in a role such as yourself.
So I think that if you're interested, you really don't know anything about it, shadow someone in the profession. I feel like everyone in health and safety, to me, tend to be ambassadors for the profession. They're happy to talk about it and share their experiences. So shadow someone, schedule a 30-minute informational interview with someone, be an intern. If you can afford to do it, interns come in all ages. So, and most businesses, especially within the city and county, we all have internships that go throughout the year for people in any stage of their career and life. So that would be my 3 pieces of advice. I spend a lot of time talking to high school students. I have interns all the time. I have mentees, talking about and just talking up the profession and letting people know, okay, you studied human factors. Did you know you could take that and move it into an ergonomic type of profession? And here are all the different places here, even at the airport, where you could be an ergonomist. There's so many examples.
Yeah, and those are great examples, and most of those are ones that I haven't even thought of. So again, this has been so informative. So within your job, this is kind of a curveball question. It was not on the list, but within your job that is so diverse and you're working on so many different things, I want to know something that stays consistent throughout. So in your morning email read through, what is your go-to coffee order at Starbucks?
Oh, okay. So I don't do this every day, but my special treat is a dirty chai. So a chai latte with a shot of espresso.
That is a good choice.
Perfect.
That is definitely a good thing to start your day off. Awesome. Well, that is all of the questions that I had for you. And just again, thank you for taking the time to meet with me and to share some of your work and what you do. And I'm so grateful for you to be here, especially for our listeners and our viewers, to learn a little bit more about the industry. And hopefully after this, they will be more interested in looking at a role in the field.
Well, they're welcome to give me a call, come over and shadow, ask questions. I almost always say yes. And again, thank you for setting up this interview and putting it out there for folks to hear or listen to or watch. Again, I really enjoy the profession. I've really enjoyed my time in it. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And to our listeners, tune in next time to hear from other industry experts giving you the inside scoop on their roles, tips, and tricks to navigate the industry and so much more. Get the info right here on So You Want to Work in Occupational Health and so much more. Thank you so much to Audrey, and we'll see all of our listeners again next time.